Hey gents, you may know that when you walk through a modern grocery store, almost all of the products in that store can be traced back to just 10 companies. And while fashion isn't quite there yet, when you walk down the Champs-Élysées in Paris, a lot of those companies can be traced back to one company, and that's what I want to talk about today. 5 huge fashion and retail companies that you may not know are connected. Make sure you subscribe to learn about the best menswear on the internet and also these Wednesday industry views, and give a thumbs up for the long tail of brands that I cover on here, which are these smaller companies giving us great products at great prices directly to us. A quick wristwatch check. This is a Vincero automatic, and you guys have been asking for this one. Your wish is my command, and that video will be coming up soon. So let's jump into the list here. Now, these aren't purely the largest companies in retail and fashion. Those would be like Zara, H&M, and Nike, but this is the companies that have multiple brands that you may not know roll up into one giant conglomerate. And we'll start out with LVMH, which stands for Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, and they do a $35 billion a year in revenue, and it does make them one of the largest companies in the fashion and apparel space. Modern LVMH can be traced to 1987 when the conglomerate started to come together, but the oldest brand under the umbrella of LVMH can be traced back to 1593, and it's an old winery. So now it's not just apparel and luxury fashion goods. LVMH has a very interesting ownership structure. The largest shareholder of LVMH is actually Christian Dior, the foundation behind the Dior brand, and so they have a 40% ownership in LVMH, but also 60% of the voting rights. So it's a very odd combination that LVMH is kind of the largest company, but then again, Christian Dior kind of wags the tail of the dog of LVMH. And so that's a very interesting one, and there's a buyout going on, but it's a very interesting company. They have 70 houses underneath this brand, which are 70 fashion houses and 20 plus brands. And those brands cover fashion, they cover watches, and they cover Dom Perignon. So the brands underneath the LVMH umbrella include, of course, Louis Vuitton, Hennessy, then they also have Dom Perignon, they have Berluti, they have Christian Dior, they have Loro Piana, they have Tag Heuer, they have Zenith, Bulgari, Marc Jacobs, Rimowa, Sephora, and even Starboard Cruises. So luxury all around from LVMH. Next up, just from a pure size perspective, are the TJX brands. They do $33 billion in revenue, a major company. The TJX Companies can be traced back to 1957. They're located in Framingham, Massachusetts, right next to another giant company, Staples. They have several different brands underneath this umbrella. TJ Maxx for one, TK Maxx in the UK. They also have Marshalls, Home Goods, Home Sense, and then Winners in Canada. BJ's Wholesale was also one of their brands for a while, but they spun that out as an independent company not too long ago. And this is a company that I do want to dive into a little bit deeper on their own, because they have a very interesting business model, and right now in the entire retail industry they're absolutely killing it, and I think they're starting to hit the tippy top of where they will continue to be, and then they might trend down for a little bit, but I do want to get into them separately on a new video. Next up, we have VF Corp, which trades at VFC, and they do a whopping $12 billion in revenue. They can be traced back to 1899, and they were incorporated as Vanity Fair Mills. I don't think it has anything to do with Vanity Fair. VF started to come together in 1969 when they acquired Lee Jeans, and then in 1986 when they acquired Wrangler and Jansport, they became the largest publicly traded fashion retail company in the world. In 1998, they moved from their tiny town in rural Pennsylvania down to Greensboro, North Carolina, to be a little bit closer to some of the manufacturing that is done in that area. And today they have brands including Nautica, Dickies, Eagle Creek, and Smartwool, so some fairly recognizable brands. And then they also own these smaller brands like Timberland, Vans, and the North Face. Overall, they have 30 total brands, and they have their own outlet stores. They're also one of the largest denim manufacturers in the world, because they do a lot of private label manufacturing for some of the big companies, which is something that I talked about in my department store breakdown. VF Corp is pretty big, and they've also started to trend back up from a little bit of a lull a few years ago, and they are just doing very well right now. Next up, we have PVH, which stands for Phillips Van Heusen. They're based in New York, and they do $8 billion in revenue a year. The seeds of the company can be traced back to 1857 and the modern incarnation about 1957, and the marquee brand of this, of course, is Van Heusen. They also have Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, Izod, and Arrow. They're also a licensee where they manufacture accessories like ties for DKNY, Penguin, Timberland, and Joseph Abboud. Now, they are one of the largest companies in some of the largest store formats. They are one of the largest manufacturers for Sears, Macy's, Kohl's, Nordstrom, and Dillard's, and as we've been covering on this channel, that's not a great business model, so it's going to be interesting to watch how they continue to decline as the biggest channels that they sell into start to fall as well. Number 5 today that we'll cover is Tailored Brands. They are a $3 billion conglomerate of menswear brands, which used to mostly be the Men's Warehouse, and there was a very interesting event a few years ago that I'll talk about. So they really date back to 1973 when George Zimmer started the Men's Warehouse. They are a vertically integrated men's specialty store, and they were one of the earlier companies to really get on the right trend of having their own design, manufacturing, and storefronts, and owning the entire supply chain there. They're extremely well known for the guy that sits there and says, "You're gonna like the way you look, I guarantee it." And the stores have been described very aptly by the saying, the neatly displayed clothes in Zimmer's stores being designed to cater to unpretentious guys who want to do as little as possible to maintain his wardrobe. So you're just getting basic stuff. And that's exactly what you get from those stores. Now, the story of Tailored Brands, the conglomerate, is very interesting. Back in 2013, Joseph A. Banks, which is smaller than Men's Warehouse, made an acquisition coup to try and take over Men's Warehouse. And then Men's Warehouse was like, "No, you got to give us your financials." And then Joseph A. Banks said, "Screw you guys, I'm going to go buy Eddie Bauer, the outdoor retailer, for $853 million. And then Men's Warehouse sued to essentially stop that transaction. Joseph A. Banks then had to share some financials with Men's Warehouse, and then Men's Warehouse said, "Hey, wait, why don't we just all get together and make one big conglomerate company?" And then it ended up working out, and they've since joined forces. So now you have one large company that controls most of the men's storefronts out there. Think about it. If you're going to Joseph A. Banks, you're going to Men's Warehouse or Moore's Clothing in Canada, that's all the same company. And then they also have Joseph Abboud, which is like kind of like the private label of Men's Warehouse, but now it's being spread across all of these stores. And so huge play into the world of middle-aged men's fashion mostly comes from this brand. So there you have it, gents. I think this is my first like listicle type video where I say 5x something or other. Now there are other companies. If you're interested in me diving into the TJX brands, I think that would be a pretty interesting video because they are doing so well right now, and I think I can pinpoint some of the reasons that they are. And if you like this type of video, of course, I'd love to hear your feedback down below. You can also reach out at @_Kavalier on Twitter and Instagram. So far on the giveaway video, so if you want to win a free custom Oliver Wick suit, I'm giving away 3 of them, and you just have to go comment on one of my videos over in the giveaway section. And I was really happy to see all the feedback that you guys like these videos. I mean, I know you guys let me know in some of the videos, but to see it all up together, just really heartwarming. And so, like I said, working on a little Vincero video, and I got plenty of other stuff. I just got 6 packages yesterday of new companies, and I love doing this guy for you guys, and I appreciate all the support. So until next time, gents, this is the Kavalier. Fall asleep and take some aspirin.